Today, most of the developed world has ended the death penalty.
That's true,
But in
that.
2024, there are still 2 countries in the OECD that use it: the United States of America and Japan. But while the US has been transparent about its ultimate punishment, Japan has kept its practices secret for years. It was only in 2010
I really want to go to North Korea. I know that sounds crazy, but I really, really want to go to North Korea.
that the world was finally shown the evil design of Japan's death penalty. July 26, 2022.
Dead TV.
Tomohiro Kato is sitting in his cell.
I don't
in a
have any
Tokyo
gap, bro.
detention center. 14 years ago, he killed 7 people and injured 10.
東京の警察によると、秋生石案での自傷事件で少なくとも7人が死亡し、10人が負傷しました。警察によれば、ある男がトラックで買い物かの群れに突っ込みました。その後、彼はレンタカーから飛び降り、倒した人々を刺し始め、次に恐怖に限った傍観者に注意を向けました。
What the hell?
In 2011, Tomohiro Kato was sentenced to death.
That's him.
Every day he wakes up at 7 a.m.
So
and has to
normal.
bed at 9 p.m. in a cell that's the size of about 4 tatami mats. He has a sink, a commode, bedding, and a small desk.
More show, please.
In
Just chill out,
Japan,
bro.
Death row inmates can wait decades for an execution. But unlike the US, they wait for a day they never really know is coming.
That's so much better. I think that's so much better. If you just a random day, you just wake up like, yeah, you're getting your head chopped off today. Instead of like, oh yeah, you're getting your head chopped off in like 3 weeks from today.
Kind of morning, the inmate can be taken to the execution chamber. They're given no more than a few hours' notice. The Japanese state says that this helps with emotional stability, that it reduces the chances of an inmate taking life. Some argue it's justice. Their victims weren't given notice either. Others say it's inhumane. For 34 years, a man named Menda Sakai didn't know which day would be his last. In 1983, he was freed.
Huh?
The police officer who arrested him revealed that he had concealed Sakai's alibi that proved he was innocent. 12,410 mornings with an unjustified fear.
That's crazy.
In 2014, Iwa Hakamada was also released and given a retrial due to possibly falsified evidence.
That guy does look kind of
He was the longest-serving death row inmate on the planet. Hakamada spent more than 45 years in prison.
Bro, what?
In the Tokyo detention center.
Imagine spending like 50 years of your life just straight up in a flipping prison cell, and they just tell you one day you're free. You're free. Like, yeah, we have evidence you're free. Surely they give you like what, half a mil for that? There's no way they don't just be like, yeah, you're free to go and you have nothing to return to.
Sits in his cell. He's surrounded by objects purposely made rounder so that he can't finish off his sentence earlier than expected. On July 26, 2022, after 14 years of waiting, he hears more noises than usual outside of his door. Today, the majority of the developed world has outlawed the death penalty, but Japan is strange. This book explains why. Even though it's still legal in the US, it's debatable. The United States is a federal, divided country. Many states have phased out the death penalty entirely. Japan, on the other hand, is a centralized state, where polls have shown that the public supports it with a clear majority.
Japan's a weird country. They try to keep everything under wraps. I feel like they try to keep everything under wraps. Like they're super under wraps.
Death penalty is intimately connected with its history of racial discrimination and enslavement. Japan is ethnically homogeneous and has less inequality. The fall of an authoritarian leader like Hitler, Mussolini, Salazar, and Franco all led to the abolition of the death penalty in their respective countries. Japan's authoritarian state also fell, but the death penalty remained. In Austria, Great Britain, and France, the election of a left-wing government all led to the abolition of capital punishment. In 2009, Japan elected the center-left Democratic Party of Japan. The death penalty stayed. But what makes Japan's situation even stranger is how uniquely brutal it is. Its homicide rate is a fraction of that found in the US.
Obviously.
It's lower than all the European countries which have abolished the death penalty. Nevertheless,
Bro, I didn't even look at that graph. The US is mental, mate. The US is actually outrageous. I know everyone says that US is crazy, but that's actually outrageous. What the fuck? Homicide rate per 100,000. US is up there, dude. It's nuts.
percentage of murder offenders sentenced to death in Japan and the US are around the same. In 2018, 15 Japanese prisoners were killed, with about 116 inmates on death row. That's 10 less than the US's 25, which had more than 10 times the amount of inmates on death row. 7 of the 15 executions were part of the AUM Shinriko doomsday cult. The Japanese
that sounds
state
crazy.
sometimes executes in batches.
Doomsday
All 7
cult.
were killed on the same morning. While the US explicitly treats the death penalty differently from other criminal sentencing, in Japan it's treated like other criminal punishments.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they said like 10 of them.
To be put to death in the
Straight
US,
up.
you must go through a bifurcated trial system. There is a criminal trial for determining guilt or innocence, which requires unanimity. After, if determined to be guilty, it goes to another trial for deciding the punishment. Here, you must receive, again, a unanimous agreement from the jury. Then, the judge can serve you the death penalty.
The jury is crazy. Like law is kind of crazy, bro. You leave it up to these people to defend you or choose for you. Imagine they just put like a Twitter poll out like, yo boys, are we gonna slice his head off or are we not gonna slice his head off on like Twitter? It's like the government page of like USA or some bullshit. And everyone's like, yeah.
Florida and Alabama are the only
What do you mean, what about
exceptions.
Pakistan?
But these two states are outliers in the
I don't
US
speak it.
context, and they still require a supermajority. In Japan, it's different. Under the Saiban system, citizens act like judges. They sit alongside professional ones to determine both the verdict and the sentence of a crime. All that is required for the death penalty is a majority. In theory, 5 judges on the panel can believe the defendant is guilty and deserves the death penalty, while the other 4 can believe the defendant is innocent and deserves no punishment whatsoever. With this close of a vote, the defendant can be sentenced to death. In Japan, there are 7 detention centers that execute the death penalty. It's the justice minister who decides when it will take place. 5 days after he or she signs the warrant, the prisoner is put to death. These are usually signed right before political recess, moments where media coverage is limited. The executions are not made clear to the family members and lawyers of the inmates. They only learn after it's taken place.
What the fuck?
Kato is brought into a prayer room. Here, he is read his last
The family members just find out after that. Yeah, ring him up. Yeah, he's dead. Bye. Have a good day.
by a spiritual advisor. He is given time to write a will.
I said, hell yeah,
maybe
American
consume
Eagle.
some snacks, or even smoke a cigarette. Afterwards, he's taken into another small room with an altar. If they're Buddhist, it will be a figure of the Buddha. If they're one of the few Christians in the country, a crucifix. In this room, the execution order is officially read out by the prison warden. The last thing Kato sees are the blue curtains covering the next room. The guards wrap a bleached white blindfold around his eyes, throw a black hood over his head, handcuff his hands behind his back, and tie his knees together. He is taken to the next and final room.
Oh, they go to another room.
In the US, lethal injection is the primary method of executing the death penalty.
Yes, I didn't mean that. You did mean it,
Is
buddy.
the only method. At the center of the room are 2 red squares. An inmate is made to stand in the center. Beneath is a trap door connected to an adjacent room.
Trap door.
When the inmate is in place, 3 officers enter this room. They do not see the prisoner. What they see instead are 3 identical buttons. 2 do nothing, but the third opens the trap door.
Oh,
The
so they don't know who
officers do
kills
not know
him.
which one is the kill switch. This divides the responsibility
That's
between all 3.
smart. Man.
It's also been mentioned that there is a delayed circuit to hide who pressed the kill button if they were pressed at different times.
Smart man. Smart
I
man.
could not find a good
Smart
source
system.
to confirm this.
That's crazy smart.
For their service, all 3 officers received 20,000 yen,
What the
about
fuck?
$180 each.
Oh, okay. That sounded like a crazy amount of dollars. Like $200 to press a button.
Watching the execution are a few officials: the head of the detention center, a medical officer, and the prosecutors. The medical officer waits for 5 minutes until confirming the death. After the body is cleaned, the families are notified. The body will be cremated unless the family specifies otherwise. In the case of some high-profile inmates, the ashes are kept in state custody. It was only in
State custody.
2007 that the Japanese government even released the names of those put to death. Currently, there are 106 inmates awaiting their execution in Japan. The last person sentenced to death row killed 36 people in an arson attack.
What the fuck? The last killed 36 people. Bro, you think Japan's a nice place, but I think they have a little bit more crazy people than even like USA sometimes, bro.
It was the last person executed in the country. I only felt comfortable putting this video in production after it was confirmed that a very specific organization would sponsor it.
Huh?
If topics like this one make you feel eager for positive change in the world, you should check out 80,000 Hours. It's an independent nonprofit that understands that your time is limited, and it wants to help you find a career with more positive impact.